Hello and welcome to the President's Podcast right here on the record with the Ohio Senate. The views the news excludes. I'm John Fortney, the Director of Communication with the Republican Caucus in the Ohio Senate, the Majority Caucus in the Ohio Senate. We are very fortunate to have on the program today the newest senator in the Ohio Senate from the 29th District, State Senator Jane Timken. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It's got to be a big honor because you've worked in politics for a long time, mainly on the campaign side, but public policy as well. What's it like to now be on the floor of the upper chamber?
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm incredibly excited. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. I always saw politics as public service itself, and so this is an extension of what I had done in the past in my prior role as ORP chair. But it's because I care about the people of Ohio, and I want to make sure that their lives are better, and I'm making a difference for them, whether it's in politics or policy.
Senator Timken is very well known and very well respected nationally. You are still, I believe, Republican National Committeewoman, correct?
Correct.
As you said, the former Republican Party chair in Ohio, and you were co-chair in your home county of Stark County.
Vice chair.
Vice chair. What do you think the political landscape is now after certainly a mandate was sent by America regarding the Electoral College, the popular vote that was captured by Donald Trump, and the political landscape here in Ohio?
Sure. I think the message from the November election was a repudiation of the Biden administration's policies, policies that left us with open borders, soaring high prices. There was a real feeling of the loss of the American dream. President Trump was talking to those people who felt left behind, who felt neglected. The priorities of the Democrats were so skewed far to progressive left ideologies that they left behind the people, the average American worker who's just trying to get ahead, who wants to make sure they can pay their mortgage bill and they can go to the grocery store and fill up their gas tank.
Isn't it interesting how you say that their party had left a lot of people behind? Well, you can look at Ohio and see how Ohio's political landscape has changed, where a lot of those counties that used to be the southeastern Ohio counties, Appalachian counties, all the way up through the 6th Congressional District, which used to be pretty reliably blue, is now reliably red, much like the entire state of West Virginia, because the Democratic Party of yesteryear, that's long gone.
Absolutely. Long gone. And we saw that transformation happen in 2016. And it's southern Ohio all the way up into the Mahoning Valley, which was the traditional union labor industrial base of the Democrat Party. Those workers realized that the Democrat policies were not benefiting them in the slightest. And people were fed up. I think that was the message from November, is they're fed up. They want the change. They gave President Trump a mandate to secure the border, to reduce spending, to stop the nonsense in D.C. As he said, it's the return of common sense. It's the revolution of common sense. Funny that we're back. He wants to bring us back to normalcy.
Yeah, it's really the coastal elites versus the common sense working people.
Correct.
In red state Ohio.
Right.
What is the benefit, do you think, of having a vice president of the United States being from Ohio, former U.S. Senator J.D. Vance? And a little factoid for you, he actually was a page here in the Ohio Senate. So you could say he started his career right here in Ohio. But what's the advantage of having a vice president from your home state?
Well, I think it is an incredible advantage for Ohio. J.D. Vance grew up here in Ohio in Middletown, and despite the media's narrative about J.D. Vance, he grew up in very difficult circumstances and made a great success of himself. It's the American dream. But he understands more than anybody the plight of people whose parents were drug addicted, who had financial insecurity, who were watching the people around them, their lives being destroyed by drug addiction and poverty. And so he comes to Washington, D.C. with that perspective. But, he's an Ohio guy, and I happen to think that everything great starts in Ohio.
I thought he really was able to convey a youthful, new level of we don't take the media narrative. Like, he's not afraid to challenge the media about their narrative. And wasn't it interesting the last couple of days where the first presidential news conference was held there, and the press secretary, her name escapes me now, but when
Caroline Leavitt.
Yes, Caroline Leavitt, when she was asked about, well, how come the price of eggs is skyrocketing, and you promised that you were going to reduce the price of eggs at the grocery store, and she had a great answer like, well, when Joe Biden was not only in charge here, but maybe upstairs sleeping in the residence, the USDA ordered millions of chickens to be killed because of the bird flu.
Correct.
Same thing happens here in Ohio, and that's why you see the price of eggs go up. Supply and demand, and the media just acts like they don't have an answer for that, because it's amazing how they still are so removed in the cognitive dissonance that they operate in. Yet the American people sent, would you agree, the media at a national level, state level, and local level, even here in Ohio with the rejection of State Issue 1, after every editorial board said, vote for this, we endorse it wholeheartedly, and people just rejected the media.
Absolutely. I think the mask has come off of people's eyes. They're able to see for themselves, and in large part because they've stopped listening to the local national news. They're no longer believing the news media because they've woken up and realized that half of the time they were lying to them, outright lying, creating narratives that didn't exist. And you saw many candidates, Trump included, going on podcasts, talking directly to people, and they saw through the filters and they could see for themselves, and that's why they chose President Trump and J.D. Vance.
It was also interesting when the narrative came out about freezing federal funds temporarily to take a hard look at where the money is going, and how the left lost their minds over that and tried to say it was irresponsible. And I basically told one reporter, well, it seems like, people nationally and here at home in Ohio, they have to spend their money wisely and would like the government to do the same. And oh, by the way, what's so wrong with offering federal employees buyouts? It happens all the time in private industry.
Right. And you have a businessman in the White House now, right? So if you had a new CEO coming into a business, he would likely want to review all of the spending that business is conducting, right? Why are we spending money on this? Why not this? And so I think it's totally rational to say, we're going to take a pause, we're going to review, we're going to make sure that we're actually spending the taxpayer dollars responsibly. That's what the American people voted for. Also, we have a huge deficit in this country. We cannot continue to spend trillions and trillions of dollars. We have to get our fiscal house in order.
And 10 years ago, there were 9 income tax brackets in the state of Ohio. Now there are only 2. You're going to be tuned in to the big operating budget debate. What do you think about state tax policy here in general? And, a lot of states either don't have a state income tax or they have a flat tax. Worthwhile debate?
I think it's a worthwhile debate. Look, we're also losing out to others, and they're moving to states that have no income tax. I want to make Ohio a top-tier state. One of the things that we have to look at is our tax policy. It directly impacts the people of Ohio, our businesses, our economic growth, and it has a huge impact. I think it's a worthwhile debate, and it's something that we should be looking at.
And to extrapolate from that as well, we may be a lower tax state income tax wise, yet there's a lot of higher taxes at the local level. Property tax is always part of the discussion. That will definitely be part of the operating budget debate as well. But maybe at a foundational level, the message is everybody's a local taxpayer at some point. But depending on where you live, what the levy situation looks like, go to your local school board, go to your city council, be involved, ask questions about exactly where is that money going.
Yes, and you have seen so many parents being more engaged post-COVID with our local school boards and demanding answers. Our children are falling further and further behind. I think it was just recently studies came out on our test scores for our children. We're still failing in math and in reading. We are not setting our children up for success, and we can't keep spending our way out of the problem. We have to start solving the problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting how the left focused on all the culture wars and then blamed the right for culture wars, but they're the ones that started it. I mean, you have to have, that's why the Education Choice Scholarship has been so remarkably well received, because the left have made parents the enemy. And parents are in charge of their children and their children's education, and to have a choice in certain districts where either it's not safe or it's a poor performing district and all the district wants is more and more money, but the results have to be there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a documentary called Waiting for Superman, and I recommend everyone watch it. It is tragic that we are letting children suffer in poor performing schools. It is, your education sets you up for the rest of your life. I'm the product of a Catholic grade school education. I believe in school choice. I think it gives families a great opportunity for their children to advance and have a high quality education, especially when they're not getting it in the schools in which where they live.
Yeah, K through 12, and then of course Senate Bill 1 here in Ohio. Senator Serino, who was our podcast guest last week, about the Advance Ohio Higher Education Act, reforming basically the culture truly on campus, which has turned into a cancel culture on campus, where conservative thoughts or ideas or answers to questions are not only frowned on at many times, but there's a lot of kids being intimidated.
Absolutely.
And tens of millions of dollars being spent on DEI programs that I like to call division, exclusion, and inequality. It has been pervasive through the hiring process. Do you like what you see so far with Senator Serino's Senate Bill 1?
I do. And I've spent 9 years as a Kent State trustee. So I've seen firsthand a lot of, and a lot of our universities are great. I'm not knocking them, but they need to get right side. There's been a lot of trampling on our First Amendment rights for our students. I have had conversations with students who say that they are deathly afraid of writing a paper from a certain perspective because they will get an F, because it is not in line with their professor's ideology. Universities need to be a beacon of free speech where ideas are freely exchanged, and instead we're trampling on these students' thoughts and ideas because they don't align with a certain particular ideology, and that is absolutely wrong. And to continue to spend taxpayer dollars on these programs that are not educating our students is ridiculous.
I thought one thing that was very well received at the two symposiums for higher education that Senator Serino and former President Huffman hosted at the Ohio State House was the message to the trustees that the faculty is not in charge of the university. They may think that they're in charge of the university, but the trustees really run the show.
In all due respect, the faculty has been running the show. And as a trustee, I've seen it. There's been an erosion of trustee management rights in Ohio for the last 30 to 40 years. And it needs to be right-sized. The job of the university is to educate the student. Period, full stop. It is not all the other nonsense.
What do you think in your district, in the 29th district, economic development, what is, I guess, a priority for you? Because, yes, I mean, there's 33 members in the Ohio Senate that represent all of Ohio, but at a foundational level, you represent your district and the more than 300,000 people within a Senate district. I can't remember the exact number now. But what do you think should be a priority for you representing your district?
Well, so economic development, and it ties into the rest of the state. Stark County is somewhat of a microcosm of the rest of the state. We have rural areas, we have manufacturing areas, we have smaller urban cities. My priority is that economic development, and it's energy, it's transportation. A big issue up in Stark County is the expansion of Route 30, which would allow for those oil and gas trucks, once we get we start drill baby drilling, get that gas safer into Pennsylvania and other areas. That's a big priority. We're going to have to work hand in hand with the federal government on that. It's been a long time. It'll be a heavy lift. We'll see what we can do with that. We have great opportunities for expansion of new manufacturing, new businesses coming into Stark County, and I think that they're doing pretty well in Stark County, but they could do a lot better, and I'm there to roll up my sleeves and help them in any way that I can.
You will see a major debate about a new forward-thinking 21st century energy policy, and I'm glad you brought that up because wind, alternative energy, those types of projects that are so-called green energy that the left loves won't remotely keep your lights on or the heat on. But as Senator McCauley, President McCauley, has talked about on the last couple of podcasts that we've had, that we have a plethora of natural resources called natural gas right underneath our feet here.
Absolutely. Look, I am so pleased that we are talking about energy because it is the future of our country. It is ridiculous that we went from an energy exporting country to an energy importing country. We have these resources right here in Ohio. We should be taking advantage of it. And, we're a manufacturing state, and I like to say you can't run a steel mill on wind and solar. And in fact, there's a lot of environmental harm that happens with these windmills. I just think natural gas is the way of the future. We have to get our energy policy right so that that it's cost effective to drill, and we are producing in a safe way, but an effective way, and making sure that the Ohioans can benefit from that energy production.
29th District also, as we wrap up our show, is well known for late Senator Kirk Schuring, who was a longtime friend of the entire Ohio General Assembly. You can read more about his legacy on the record. Go to ohiosenate.gov/, you just go to news, click on news, and we're the very first drop down on the tab. But he did so much for Canton and the Stark County area and really for small business. And he was really a legislator's legislator.
Right. And he was the champion for Stark County. And I don't think there's anyone that worked harder for Stark County than Senator Schuring. I have big shoes to fill. He has a great legacy. You look at the Hall of Fame, you look at so many other things that have happened in Stark County. He had his fingers on that, and it's because he cared so much, and I hope to do the same.
State Senator Jane Timken, Republican from the 29th District in Stark County, Ohio. Thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We can't wait to have you back on. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.